Hello, welcome to our morning devotional. I want to share with you a thought. This week I had a couple of things happen that caused me to reflect back on my ministry. First thing is this: we're looking to hire new teachers for our school next year, and I had an application from a man and called him and checked with him, and he said, "Well, Pastor Perdue, I know you." I said, "You do?" He said, "Yes." And come to find out, he was the son of one of my classmates in college. And I'd known the classmate. We'd served close enough where we saw each other fairly often in the past. And I began to think of his ministry and so forth. And then that very same day, I think it was Friday afternoon, I saw posted on Facebook or some form of social media the death of another one of the men I had gone to college with. He'd passed away just last week. And I began to think of his ministry as I read his obituary and all the things he'd done. A good man. Both of these are good men. And then I was asking myself, well, what good is it to compare myself with them? That doesn't help anything. My ministry has been one place and theirs has been somewhere else. But the problem with many of us is we do compare ourselves to others. Then I was reading in John chapter 21, a familiar passage of scripture after Jesus had risen from the dead, when he was talking with his disciples, and he talked to our favorite loudmouth, Peter. And he was asking Peter, "Lovest thou me?" And 3 times he asked him that. 3 times Peter answered him. I think it was a reminder of the 3 times he had denied Christ on the day of his crucifixion early that morning. But then Peter looked around and saw one of the other disciples. It was John, the one who was probably the closest to Jesus, the most intimate, the best friend of the disciples to Jesus. And he was asking about the future. He said, "Well, what's going to happen to him?" Referring to John. And Jesus, in his very gracious and yet straightforward way, said, "Don't you worry about him." Now, that's the way I say it. Don't you worry about him. He'll do whatever I want him to do. I can get him to do this, or I can extend his life as long as I want it to be extended. But he said 3 words to Peter in John chapter 21, verse 22. He said, "Don't worry about him." Then he said, "Follow thou me." Peter, your job is to follow me. Your job is not to be like John. Your job is not to be like someone else. Your job is to follow me. I was challenged again by that thinking, because it's very often that we compare ourselves to someone else. I want to just give you this thought. Don't compare yourself to somebody else. In 2 Corinthians chapter 10, we're told how foolish that is, to compare ourselves to somebody else. We're not those people. We don't have the same gifts and talents and abilities as they have. God may want to use them in a larger way than he uses us, or a different way, a way that we would not be comfortable in being used. Don't compare ourselves with others. Part of the reason for that is that God has every right to use us however he wants to. I was comparing this with a teacher in a classroom, especially after talking with a potential teacher. And I think in a classroom, a teacher has the right to say to one student, "I want you to be the door holder today." To another student, "I want you to be the line leader today." To another student, this or that. The teacher is the authority and has that privilege or opportunity and responsibility. God has that and more with us. He's saved us. He's redeemed us. He's called us to serve him. He's given us a commission. And if he wants to use me in a great way, wonderful. If he wants to use me in some small corner of the world, wonderful. Our guest missionary Doug and his wife Donna Stamper were here this past weekend. They're being used in a great way, but 9,000 miles away in Kenya. I'm thankful I'm here. But God has a right to use us, however, wherever he wants to. Let's be careful that we don't compare ourselves to others. Today, serve the Lord the best you can, where you are, while you can. God bless you. Have a great day.